Welcome to another awesome video.
Today we have the Magnavox Power Player. What do you think of when you see that?
I don't know, it looks kind of big, like people back in the 80s used to carry those on their shoulders. I feel like your shoulder would just go.
I had a boombox in the 80s. I never carried it on the shoulder. I just carried the handle and sat it down. This one is big, and you know, with a look like that, all those knobs and speakers, you know it's there to make noise. And this thing pretty much dwarfs the other boom boxes that we have. It looks bigger, but it's actually not the heaviest. It's pretty lightweight.
This one's pretty heavy.
So the Hitachi's heavier.
Yeah, the Hitachi's heavier.
Anyway, let's look at the labels on the top. On the left, you've got, of course, Power Player. And on the right, you've got the little spatial stereo graph. And it says 5-speaker system, which refers to the big giant bass thing in the middle.
I don't know what that graph represents.
I think it's supposed to represent how accurate the response of the speaker is through a range of frequencies, but it may just be marketing to make it look cool. The Power Player is not really a collector's item, but it's definitely got an interesting look to it. It's very asymmetrical. Probably something I would not have gone for back in the 80s, but it really stands out with the odd number of speakers and the cassette deck just sort of shoved over there on the left side. I've seen them selling for anywhere from under $20 to over $200 depending on condition. I think this one I paid $17 and it was pretty beat up. It has a common failure of a disintegrating gear, which is very well documented on the internet, and so this video we're going to try that fix and see if we can just get this thing going. Watching the repair section of this video should give you a good idea of what you'd be up against if you decide to adopt one of these boom boxes. Fairly typical boombox operation, nothing really fancy here. You can it has cue and review, so you can fast forward rapidly. If you don't press hard enough, if you press all the way, it'll mute. And if you stop, of course, you could go normal fast forward. A nicely slow eject. I don't know if that's by design or it's just years of cake dust has slowed down the eject. Of course, it's got the metal badging. You know what that means?
What?
It means metal. It handles metal tape. You switch in the metal or chromium tape there. Got a tape counter so you can rewind to your favorite parts of the tape. And of course, if you want to listen to radio, you turn on the radio.
What song is that?
I don't know. It's on the radio.
Memphis' new country 99.7.
Oh, it's country.
A slew of CMAs, including.
So the radio itself has AM, FM, and shortwave, which is interesting. Although I haven't been able to pick up anything on shortwave. The antenna is broken on this one. Not sure if that's why. Common on boom boxes, you lose the antenna. That's easily replaceable. It does put out a lot of bass. You could really hear it when you turn up the bass. Turn up the bass a little bit. And it's got this thing over here called Spatial Stereo, which adds some sort of effect. If you turn it all the way that way, it's mono. If you turn it all this way, it adds some sort of echoey stereo, although my FM stereo is not working right now. But it's got a lot of knobs.
Yeah. It also says long life heads.
Meaning if you put a lot of wear and tear on the tape, in theory, the heads will last longer, but that is just marketing, so who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
On the side, we've got microphone inputs, a remote input, we've got line inputs and outputs, and a headphone jack.
Also, the battery cover's missing.
Yeah, the battery cover, this thing is really beat up, and we'll see in a second when I go through the repair what all I had to do to get it to this point. But yeah, I think this was probably stored in somebody's garage for a while. I've cleaned it up quite a bit here, just general cleaning, and I spray painted this grille black because it was sort of corroded.
It looks pretty unique with the 2 small speakers and the 2 giant speakers.
Yeah, like I said, you know, this other boombox will sit on top of this one.
Yeah.
Really looks rough. Let's plug it in and see if anything works. Alright, so it's got power now. Hey, I think it's working. So it seems like it works, alright? See about the tape. Alright, so yeah, we are getting a little bit of tape movement there. Stop, fast forward, let's try rewind. That doesn't work. Let's try play. Capstan's moving, this is not moving. Okay, let's take this thing apart. Okay, so the antenna is connected and the transformer and power, oh yeah, that's soldered on. There we are. A lot of space in here. Okay, so the first thing I did was add this connector because the transformer and stuff is mounted on the back panel and it was just soldered in, so I added a connector. And before I close it back up, I'm going to remove the electrical tape and solder on these wires and add that heat shrink. But this will allow me to hook it up, lay this to the side, otherwise I would have had to pretty much prop this up against something. So 5 more screws to get this board loose, and now this board's loose. I have to see, looks like it might be, oh yeah, you got some wires down here holding it in. I can slide the wires out from under. Alright, so now I've got those wires out from under a clip. Maybe I can lift this thing up. A little bit better, but there's still a, oh yeah, so that's a microphone. I wonder if that'll just come out. Yeah, there's a microphone. Okay, we got the circuit board propped up and we can kind of get to the cassette mechanism back here. Let's see what sort of state it's in. Yeah, so the key was removing this microphone, which was just sort of shoved in there. It's got this rubber gasket around there. And then this head wire was sort of woven in amongst the capacitors. So we removed this bracket and then we were able to remove the sort of capstan assembly. And there's a lot of powder in there, and the powder is around this side of the bracket, so there's still some residue there. So this might have that crumbling gear problem. So this is a Philips cassette mechanism, Philips RT3. Okay, so here's what's happening. So the only thing that works is fast forward, and when that works, when you press fast forward, this little gear goes over. Let me get it out. So this little gear goes over and engages with the gear on the capstan, and so fast forward works. But when you press play, I think there was supposed to be a gear around this, and that's what's disintegrated and sort of turned to, gooey or junk. So that's what's disintegrated, is the gear that I think was around that. So I do have a friend with a 3D printer, but I'm not sure what resolution he can print with, so I may just see if there's something available on eBay, because this is a common problem for these. So while I'm waiting on the gear to arrive, I took the opportunity to clean up and vacuum out the insides and clean up some of the volume controls and other potentiometers. I'm going to try to clean up the grill. I've gone back and bent all the tabs back, and I'm going to take this little screwdriver and just very gently kind of pop it back, go up around, get this grill out of there. It's a little sticky, a little gluey, but if I go all the way around, I think I can get it out without bending it. And then I'll clean it off, maybe respray paint it. But wow, that is nasty. That is so nasty. Okay, so that's a little bit better after just a couple minutes of very lightly dusting and vacuuming. This little gear is available on eBay and lots of other places. I think it cost me about $9, but that goes here on this shaft. The other one just disintegrated. So what we have to do, and I'm not going to go over this in detail because there's a much better video online. You have to remove this, and then make sure that that gear goes on there and turns. So first we need to take off this post. I don't know if we have to take off that post, but first we take off this post, which will also free the belt. That will get our belt out of there, which this belt probably needs to be replaced. I may just boil it if I don't have a replacement. That's pretty easy to get to, but yeah, we'll need to take off this little piece and this little piece, and there's some pretty fragile plastic pieces in there. So then this little cam guy is sort of held in place by those little fingers. Get the magnifying glass out. It's just harder to see as I get older. I've bent the end of a toothpick to hold that one back, and that did it. Did I break it or did it come out? Who knows? Let's see. Oh no, I didn't break. Okay, so it still looks good. All right, so that was a pain, but that's out. And according to the website and some other instructions I've seen, it may not fit exactly right at first. You have to drill it out a little, and that does seem like it's a little bit, it's a little bit tight. Just took this little drill bit and just manually just do that a couple of times to get out whatever excess material was on there. And then at that point, it does fit and turn. Okay, so sort of got all that back in. The little piece on the end here has like a little slot to go in, so I kind of put that in first. Once I put this in, assuming I got all that cam stuff lined up right, then we should be ready to go. That feels a little wobbly. I might have misaligned these cams or something, but we just need to see if it works before we put it all back together. I've got this sort of propped up a little bit so it won't short or damage the speaker. Let's see, we want to try fast forward, make sure we haven't broken anything. That would be this one. That doesn't sound good, but could be hitting something. Let's stop. Sounds awful. Let's try play. I may not have gotten the cam going right. Let's see. I think I figured this out. I think I had this little piece like trapped in this inner ring of the cam, and I moved it and it doesn't make that clicking noise anymore. So I think I just made a mistake of getting this piece locked. So I just pulled it out and made sure this whole thing could turn, and it didn't click now when I manually turn it. So we're gonna put it all back together and try again. Try the fast forward because we know that worked before. Yes, it's working. Now stop, and play. Yes, take up reel is turning. A little bit of a grinding noise there. All right, here we go. Got a tape in there. It's out the door. You got to kind of hold it.
And now, another instant thrilling quest on FM 100.
Well, seems to be working. So let's fast forward. A little bit of a grinding noise. Need to go investigate what's going on with that. There we go. Now we're playing, and we got rid of the noise. The problem with the noise was this cam, so realigning everything seems to fix that. I did notice another problem though, and that is the record switch is going to be a problem. So all these older tape decks have this giant switch here which switches it from record to play mode, and it's usually actuated by some metal thing or hook or whatever. In this case, there's a little metal clip, and the plastic mounts for that clip are coming loose. So I'm gonna have to do something about that. So what I ended up doing on this record thing is putting a piece of heat shrink tubing so that when you press down, it should have enough tension to press this. I don't know, this switch is pretty stiff. We'll see if it actually works. Speaking of recording, what's up with this erase head? It looks like there's a piece missing or something. It's like there's a cover missing, or is it clear? I can't tell. It looks like you can see down into the erase head. Interesting. So I've got this old beat up thing actually working, but FM stereo is not working. I don't really have the talent or the equipment to, properly measure it and align it and everything. A couple of suggestions online were the 19 kilohertz tone or whatever that indicates the FM stereo thing. Make sure that's not dirty. It wasn't. This chip right here seems to be the key, the multiplex decoder. There's actually a test thing. If you have a frequency counter, you can measure the pulse or something. I don't know how to do that. Then there's also some simple things like this switch, which switches modes. Could simply be not switching something on. I've checked for shorted components. Not really going to get into that. But one observation though about this board, this pinout, the interface is very simple. It's left, right, ground, and voltage. So there's about 7 volts powering the board, and then there's left and right coming out and ground. So if you wanted to tap into this and put your own auxiliary or do something, that would be a great place to do it. And then the other connection to the board is the LED, the stereo LED. But going to leave that for now. Maybe, and if somebody has some hints on things to try on this, I could try that, or I may just get another power player and compare voltages and things and see if I notice anything obvious. In the future, if I need to take it apart and disconnect it again, I'm going to remove this thicker connector and put on one of these little connectors, which will give me also a little bit more wire, so it'll be easier to work on in the future. So I'm going to solder that and heat shrink that and put the back on.
They're coming back to Mid-South Coliseum, July 27th. They're deaf, they're Run DMC.
It's like that.
Well, it's like that. That's about it. And
see you next time for another awesome video.
Magical illusion. LL Cool J with his 8-foot radio, plus the Timex Social Club. Tickets.